Rangers fans, welcome to Liberty Blue, the essential New York Rangers podcast. I'm Andrew Chelney. This is Nick Zararis, and we have breaking news. Kaapo Kakko has been traded to the Seattle Kraken for defenseman Will Borgen, a third-round pick and a sixth-round pick in next year's draft. Nick, I'll throw it to you in a second, but I knew this was happening on some level because, Kaapo Kakko is going to be an RFA. The Rangers clearly wanted to move on from him at some point. Kaapo Kakko was one of the few players on this team that act like he wanted to win games. I understand he wasn't the second overall talent that the Rangers initially drafted him to be. I understand that, but he wasn't the problem, and the Rangers kind of made it out him to be the problem, and they made a mistake.
He showed more care in him complaining about being out of the lineup than half of the people on the team. Him being pissed off enough to actually say something of substance to the media shows me he gives a shit about himself, at least. That's a lot more than I can say about some of the other people on this team. Look, we know this organization hasn't put him in the most opportunistic situations to succeed. You can unpack this from a million different angles. You can talk about him being forced to play at the NHL level as an 18-year-old on one of the worst defensive teams in the modern history of the NHL, not really being given an opportunity to grow, just being expected to play outright. I said the other day that they traded his one friend on the team, Georgiev, and then didn't bring the other person back who showed some modicum of interest in trying to make him sociable. I think people underestimate just how difficult that is to be 19, 20 years old, and you're moving across the world. You don't speak the language. You have multiple medical conditions that make it kind of difficult for you to just go out on a weekly basis. Someone with celiac, they can't just go to a bar on a weeknight because they can't have beer. They can't have most of the stuff at a common restaurant. So most of his stuff, he's got to make himself, or he has to have specialized places. So look, a lot of the old heads have pushed back on that and saying, what is he, a baby? Well, the counterpoint to that is the general manager's done this to 6 different guys at this point now, where it's my way or the highway, and the highway seems better. I'm not sure Vitaly Kravtsov is happier playing in Russia than he would have been if he'd stayed in the NHL. He's sure as shit not taking Chris Drury's shit. What does Chris Drury have to show for his tenure as a general manager? A couple conference finals. That's really nice. But you didn't build this team. This is someone else's team. You assumed your former boss's team in a bloody coup. You did minimal work to improve what your boss had done previously. And then you had the balls to complain that, well, this isn't going as well as I wanted it to, when you didn't actually do anything. If you had taken some swings, if you had missed at some point on real, genuine swings, don't tell me Patrick Kane with one hip and Tarasenko are swings. Those are not swings. Giving up your best prospect for Jake Gensel, that's a swing. Trading Jacob Trouba in the offseason and taking your medicine ahead of time and saying this is going to be awkward, but the sooner we get this over with, the sooner we can do it, the better. But as far as Kakko, no, he's not a second overall pick talent. He's a functional, above average NHL player. I'd say he's a 60th-ish percentile player. His defense is always going to be better than his offense. He's nothing special, but he's functional. He's inexpensive. But Chris Drury, I assume this got expedited because of the way he reacted to getting scratched.
Allegedly did it, according to Kevin Weeks.
Okay.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
Again, if you actually got the Rangers organization in a room and you gave them
also, by the way, where were the insiders, before the Rangers posted this trade? But that's a whole different conversation.
If you put the Rangers organization in a room with the truth serum or Batman until he pummeled the shit out of them and got the truth out of them, you would get a lot of answers we don't have. I still don't know what happened to Elias Anderson. I still don't know what happened to Vitaly Kravtsov. Yep. I still don't know what happened to Nils Lundqvist. I still don't really know why we couldn't play Kaapo Kakko. I do not fundamentally understand. And the same people I was having circular logic arguments with in 2021 about, well, they got to play Kakko and Lafreniere now because 2 and 3 years from now, you're going to need to know what those guys are for your long-term financial planning, for how much you need to earmark to bookmark for those guys. The only consolation I have for you, if you're listening, or for you, Andrew, is be happy it wasn't Lafreniere or K'Andre Miller who got the frustration trade. Because that's absolutely on the table here as far as panic decisions. And that's the other part of this that's concerning. The entire rest of the league understands that Chris Drury is desperate. and are eager to take advantage of him. I don't think Seattle is some magnificently run organization, but Borgen's a nothing burger. He's a 6th defenseman. He's fine. And 2 lottery ticket draft picks. Drury's probably going to end up trading them to get rid of somebody's bad contract down the road. That's why he needed more picks, because he doesn't have any second round picks. That's the counterpoint, is they didn't give up a lot. They didn't get a lot. It could have been worse. And it could have been worse is not a high bar, but with this general manager, it could have been worse is pretty fucking bad.
EJ Radick is saying that the Rangers could flip Will Borgen for a first round pick. Now, I had to reread that 70 times before I had to say it out
loud. Drugs are
bad.
The NHL Network is not a real. That is not
a first for Will Borgen.
No shot,
sir. I'm speaking to you, sir. What are we doing here? What do you mean you can flip Will Borgen for a first round pick, sir? I don't know if those words mean what you think they mean. I don't know about that. Ultimately, it's this. Whether it was a frustration move out of the Kakko comments or not, I'm not here to deliberate that. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Who knows? Kaapo Kakko was not the problem. And I understand the biggest problem right now on the Rangers has a no-move clause until halfway through the next presidency, 2030. I understand that. He has to waive his no-move clause to be possibly moved anywhere. I get that. Kaapo Kakko is one of like 4 players on this team currently that played like they wanted to win the hockey game. It's Will Cooley. It was Kakko. It was Hedel. It was Sam Carrick somehow. And like that was kind of it for forwards. Every now and again you'd get, the Trocheck game or the Panarin game or whatever. For the most part, game in and game out, those would be the forwards that gave you something that wasn't abhorrently negative during this run. I understand that Kakko probably wanted a longer-term contract. I understand that the Rangers probably were not going to give him that contract. According to all of these rumors, especially at the last trade deadline where the Rangers allegedly said no to moving Kakko for Jake Gensel, where the Rangers allegedly said no to moving Kakko for, and a first round pick, I think it was, for Vetrano and Henrique, allegedly. You say no to those deals when the players that you would have gotten back would have actually made a big difference. And now, when everything is falling apart and you can't get out of your situation, you decide, oh, the punching bag can get traded. Oh, that's right. We can still have 24. Oh, yeah, we can get rid of him. That's what this feels like. Whether or not this is how it actually went down, we don't know, and we won't know that maybe forever until one of the insiders wants to tell us.
5 years from now, when Jeff Merrick has another podcast he needs to launch, he'll dive. He'll sell another trade.
Right, exactly. But at the end of the day, the Rangers gave up on a middle 6 player that was a positive contributor on the ice for peanuts because Chris Drury is desperate. The NHL knows he's desperate. The one thing I'll push back what you said earlier. They're not trading Lafreniere. That's not going to happen. The thing, like,
I'm saying that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
they trade him, they trade Miller, because those are the only guys who are young and cheap.
At a certain point, like with Kandra Miller, we're gonna have this discussion, either today or maybe next week on a normal episode of the show. Kandra Miller, like I don't know at this point.
You don't want to sell him at rock bottom because right now he's got no value.
You don't.
He's played ass, and he's in a walk year. That's
I would 100% agree. At the same time, though, if the Rangers give him another long-term extension that's immovable, that we prolong this process of, oh my God, now there's another player that the Rangers can't move added to this, added to the core. So we'll table that conversation for later. But I understand Rangers fans' disappointment that Kaapo Kakko and the Rangers organization as well, that Kaapo Kakko was not the second overall talent that they drafted. I understand that. Some of it was, I'm sure some of it was on him, some of it was on the organization. Did the Rangers give Kakko enough support developmentally? Did they give him enough support? Maybe he played in the NHL too early. Did they take away the training wheels too early? Did they give him any training wheels at all? These are things behind the scenes that we will probably never know the answer to. But at the end of the day, a lot of Rangers fans and a lot of maybe people in the organization treated Kaapo Kakko as a punching bag. And now that he's gone, well, you got to find another one, because trading Kakko is not going to magically solve this team's issues. He was one of the bright spots on this particular roster, and he's not here anymore. So now what are you going to do?
One thing I want to add on to that, as far as punching bags, that exact verbiage, Arthur Staple wrote an entire column in The Athletic in the middle of November about, and he was specifically talking about Jacob Trouba this season, that the fan base always picks somebody who doesn't deserve the ire, who we don't understand why. He doesn't understand why we give them such a hard time. It was Ryan Strome. It was Barclay Goodrow. It was Jacob Trouba. The problem is the organization does not view the sit punching bags the same way we do. They view the ineffective hockey players only for the positives they bring to the table. They only look at the fact that the locker room valued Goodrow and Trouba's leadership. They didn't look at the hockey part of that. They only looked at the positives. But the front office, when they don't like somebody, it's very obvious when they don't like somebody, because that player does not get opportunities. That player gets ostracized. That player gets relegated to smaller roles, gets sent to the AHL, or in this case, traded in a ultimately pretty inconsequential trade. As much as EJ Radick might say the Rangers are getting a first-round pick, I mean, let's be for real here. Jake Gensel got a conditional first-round pick, and that's a 40-goal scorer who's won 2 Stanley Cups. And you're telling me Will Borgen is getting similar or comparable value?
Right.
Let's be for real here. And I really hate doing the media telephone stuff, because ultimately everyone is working an angle. And that's the benefit of being us, where we don't have connections we need to maintain. We don't have people we need to keep happy. The Rangers are in what you could politely call a free fall. I've been saying they've been circling the drain like a turd for the last few weeks. It's kind of getting to the point now where, what do you want them to do? There is no solution here. Great, you got rid of the one guy who wasn't happy because he wasn't playing a lot. Great. Is that going to make Zibanejad try? Is that going to make Kreider try? Is that going to make Trocheck try? Is that going to fix Ryan Lindgren? Is that going to fix Adam Fox? Is that going to fix anything that's wrong with this team? Other than Will Cooley, there's not a lot to be excited about watching this team on a nightly basis. And God bless him, Shesterkin did his best last night against Nashville. Nashville's terrible, and the Rangers had no pulse. So that
goalie can't score goals.
The goalie cannot.
He tries. He tries every now and again, but on empty nets. But Shesterkin can't score goals. If you give your goaltender 0 goals of support, no matter if you have Patrick Waugh, if you have Hasek in there, whoever you have in there is going to lose the game. Like it's as simple as that.
The one thing I also want to add on to that, and what I find interesting about this entire endeavor, is that the Rangers flushed 2 whole years of our lives down the toilet in the process of trying to build a competitive roster. And one of the assets they acquired in that process, Kakko, you can mention the other ones, Elias Anderson, Vitaly Kravtsov, also in the window, Nils Lundqvist in that window. They spent 2 years of our lives just wasting our time with bad hockey. And we were all enthusiastic about it because we saw the long-term vision. We said, okay, you have time. You can be patient with this group, and that's okay. And then suddenly that wasn't okay anymore. And then very suddenly it became, well, Chris Drury is going to take over and he's going to fix what's wrong with this team. And then he didn't really do anything to fix the team. You can, and I know I've seen a little bit of discourse about this, and I do think it's an interesting conversation as far as he realized what a group of softies these were. So he overcompensated in bringing in guys like Gaudreau, Reeves, and Blais and Nemeth all in one offseason, because they're such, for lack of a better word, softies that need a kick in the ass. But if you want to explore that argument, then why did he double and triple and quadruple down on the same group? If he knew outright 3-4 years ago that those guys needed a very specific set of ingredients to thrive, to succeed. Why did we do all of the theatrics to get here? You could have very easily, Chris Drury could have took this job over in April of 2021, looked around and said, we probably need to fine tune this core a little bit because, I like the guys we have, but we can do better. And ultimately, we know he tried. He wanted to get Jack Eichel and then very quickly backed out of that when he realized Buffalo wasn't going to deal with him. So you are dealing with, multiple levels of a faulty idea. It's not just that the core isn't good enough. It's that the core isn't good enough. It needs to be managed in a very specific way. Oh, yeah. And the core hates your guts now. On top of that, you went out of your way to overcompensate, to protect, to defend them, to try and get Zibanejad going, to try and get Kreider going, to get you tried your ass off to try and make things work for them. And they are ready to throw you under the bus too. The same way they did Gallant, the same way they're going to do Laviolette if this keeps up. Don't tell me Chris Drury he's sitting on his hands. He really trusts this group, because he doesn't. He waited too long.
Clearly he doesn't. But if you didn't trust them, then why did you wait this long?
Exactly.
This is the same team. Mike Rupp put out a video yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it was, and I disagreed with some of the things that he said, but a lot of it was true. Where it's like the Rangers won a lot of games last year, but they were able to cover up especially their defensive issues by winning a whole lot of these games, and they were able to kind of mask their problems. Whereas this year, not only are they not doing that, they kind of don't care to do that. All of their problems are being blown up exponentially, and no one seems to want to do anything about it. This is the same team, by the way, essentially. This is the same roster. You knew the problems going in. You knew that last year was essentially best case scenario. We talked about it all of last year, how this is literally essentially best case scenario. And that last year was that all was happening while Chytil was out for essentially the entire year. Everything was going well for them with Chytil out. They were, getting the puck luck. They were getting the bounces. They were, down early, and they were a comeback team, and they won all these games. President's Trophy, got to the conference finals. And now all of the issues that plague them, that have been plaguing them, these aren't brand new concerns. We've had them. We've talked about it since day one of the show. These are the same problems Rangers have had for multiple seasons now. And now that they finally, come to light, quote unquote, not as if they weren't there before. Now they're really here, right? They're, the spotlight's on them, and they don't have a way out. There is no backstage. The curtain isn't closing on them. They have the spotlight on them. They don't know the lines, and they still have to go out and perform. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? This is the team, and you had 3 years to prepare for this moment. You had 3 years to prepare your lines, to know the script, to know where you're supposed to go, know the choreography, and guess what? The spotlight's on you, and you didn't study.
It is very apparent, and the drum I've been beating for 3 straight years is that the Rangers are never preventive. They are always reactive. It always takes something happening for them to react. I did on an episode, I want to say probably middle of November, I had said they're always running from fire to fire as opposed to cleaning up the kerosene and the rags that are laying around on the floor. And this is yet another example. They've had Kakko in the organization for 6 seasons, as many NHL people like to point out. Well, he's not young. He's been in the NHL for 6 years. He's one of the youngest people on this team. As much as every one of those people was being disingenuous, trying to dunk on a 24-year-old, he is one of the young guys on the team, and he is unfairly being singled out. Johnny Brodzinski and Kaapo Kakko are not the issues with this team. Those guys should not be sitting, but we can't bench Mika Zibanejad. We can't scratch Chris Kreider. We can't scratch the guys we can't scratch Trocheck. We can't scratch Panarin.
But Riley Smith was scratched once, so that solves all of it.
And that's the thing. And look, I understand coaches, general managers.
It wasn't part of the core, by the way. I just want to highlight that.
Coaches and general managers are never going to be able to tell us everything. There are some things they got to keep close to the vest. Do not insult our intelligence. That is the only thing I ask. The tickets are $180 and they're 3-11 in their last 14 games. Maybe don't insult all of us when you're begging us to spend money. I could hear the sadness in Sam's voice as he had to do the ad read for tickets last night as the team is losing again to the worst team in the league. And it's a different worst team in the league for a second time in 3 weeks. Like, how can you in good conscience feel like you're doing your job if you're in the Rangers organization right now? From Jim Dolan all the way down to the person who fills the Gatorade cooler before the game. How do you feel like you are doing a good job right now? And I said it before and I'll say it again. I don't blame Kakko for being pissed.
No.
There are people on this team who are coasting, who are doing nothing, who have enough money in the bank already, let alone the rest of their contracts, to retire to castles in the French Alps and never be heard from again. Kakko needs this.
Yep.
He needs another contract. That's the thing. He still has something to play for. He knows he needs to play well if he wants to get a long-term contract to be able to make the type of money he potentially could. When you're looking around, it's the guys who've got 4 and 5 years left on their deals who are skating with the enthusiasm of people at Central Park. This is not a serious hockey team right now.
Though, Nick, because the season's saved. They sent down Victor Mancini and they brought up Matt Rempe! Yeah! Matt Rempe's going to save the season! Yeah! Woo!
Drury's just trying to get Brooks off his neck for a week because Brooks has been banging the drum for Rempe for a month. Rempe's not an NHL player. We know this. He's been bad at the AHL level where the game is too fast for him. We know he's not an NHL player, but this is a sideshow. This is fundamentally a look at the shiny object. You know, I'm going to go quote tweet the tweet of that announcement with the 10 hours of jingling keys, because that's what this is. This team is on fire, the building is collapsing, and you've got somebody pulling rabbits out of a hat on the sidewalk as the fire department is standing there. What the fuck are we doing here? We can't score a goal. We got shut out by Nashville. The worst team in the league shut us out. They give up almost 3 goals a game, and we couldn't score 1 against we let a guy who had 9 career NHL games score the game-winning goal last night.
And he walked Riley Smith.
Yeah,
walked him.
At a certain point, man, it's not worth it. You know, I probably will have the game against the Stars on Friday night on in the background while I'm doing more fun things, because unfortunately, as somebody who does this, you kind of have to pay attention to some degree. But if you're a sane person, watch Notre Dame, Indiana, go Christmas caroling, go shovel some snow, go volunteer at a soup kitchen, do something good for society. Watching the New York Rangers is nothing good for you, for your health, for your mental health, for your well-being. All it's going to do is piss you off because it's going to remind you 5 months ago, they were 2 wins away from playing for the Stanley Cup, and they can't even score a goal against the worst team in the league. This is a waste of everyone's time. This is an insult to our intelligence.
JT, I will not chill. Thank you. I appreciate your comment. I appreciate it. I read it. I see all the comments. I will not, but I appreciate, you know, your worry about me. It's one of those things where I just don't see what happens. Like, it's what I don't know what the next page of this book is going to say. And that's when you're an organization like the Rangers, where your expectation going into this year was, okay, we made it to within 2 wins of the Stanley Cup final. We're bringing the entire team back. Run it back, baby. Let's go. And now you're 3-11 in the last 14. Everything's on fire. Like you said, Trouba's gone. Kaapo's gone. Kaapo Kakko is gone. Now what? You haven't fixed anything. Like, the Trouba trade was good. That was a good trade. I was with it then. You know, still with it now. The Kaapo Kakko trade doesn't make any sense to me. And okay, well, this still your building is still on fire. I don't know if you know this, but getting a glass of water from your sink and throwing it on the fire is not going to put it out. You either have to call the fire, you have to call the fire department, but you're not. Why are you not calling them?
Because it's a great question, because the fire department apparently is a 6'7" Saskatchewan-born child who can't skate in a straight line without tripping over his own feet. They are wasting our time. They are insulting our intelligence. People need to stop going. I know. Look, if you have season tickets and they already got you for your money, I understand if you still go. Tough. If you are looking at tickets on the second,
sell if you can. But,
don't. No, if you already are stuck with them, go. If you are looking at the secondary market, for the love of God, give it to the American Cancer Society, give it to Make-A-Wish, do something good with that money. Do not give the Rangers any more money. Stop showing up. If they think Matt Rempe and James Dolan meeting with Sean Avery are reasons for us to be excited, we should all kill ourselves. I'm not kidding here. If they think Sean Avery sitting down with James Dolan is enough to like jingle keys to distract us from how bad this team is and how much they've bullshitted us over the last 4 years, what are we doing here? On no planet is Sean Avery, who yells at homeless people and double park cars all day on TikTok, worthy of our time. This is a professional sports franchise. James Dolan knows who Sean Avery is because he probably sees him on the news every now and then. Not because he remembers Sean Avery was on the Rangers. At a certain point, you are what you are. And right now, the Rangers are a clown show. This is an utter circus. You got your biggest clown. You brought in Rempe. So now we can have the fake tough guy and we can still lose, but at least we'll win our fight in the game as opposed to what we've been doing. This is maddening stuff. And if you are not at a simmering point like me, like Andrew, like a lot of us, I commend your patience, but this is bullshit. They are wasting all of our times and they are disrespecting us by doing what they are doing right now.
Every now and again, I'll see, I don't follow this person, but I see their post, you know, they're very positive posts like, oh, they'll figure it out. They'll bring this back. Like, oh, why is everybody so upset? Oh, the Rangers are they'll figure it out. Everybody's gotta go through a rough patch. Surely everything is gonna be okay. They'll make the playoffs. And to those people, I mean, I just commend you. Like at a certain point, you have to just sit back and gaze at the sheer willpower to continue to be positive about something that you know is not trending in that direction. Like, you know, if the Rangers still lost to Nashville, but I'm making it up. Like, let's say they outshot them 65-9, right? And the entire game was spent in a Nashville zone. Then maybe we can say, okay, well, like they lost, but it's at least a step in the right direction. No, like the Predators can't stop a beach ball and they can't score and they shut you out. Like you lost to Chicago, you blew a gasket against Seattle, you got shut out by Nashville. Oh, by the way, like their next 14 games are against the best teams in the league. Have fun. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Don't worry.
Like,
Matt Rempe is going to fight Trent Frederick when we play the Bruins. He's going to fight Curtis McDermott, who the Devils will call up just for when we play them. We play them twice in the next 12. I'm sure he'll instigate something against Dallas, even though Dallas doesn't have
just
any
like, you know, we get the comments. You know, I read the comments on our videos that we post on the YouTube, and under everyone, there's somebody that's always like, play Matt Rempe. Matt Rempe needs to play.
He's not an NHL player right now.
He plays 3 minutes a game, and he doesn't contribute. Like, again, we talked about this last season too, when Matt Rempe was first called up and he was first getting, you know, minutes. If you gave him 10, 12 minutes back then, when each of these games wasn't your Stanley Cup, to actually see if he can play the game at the NHL level and not just use them as fists for your hockey team, then maybe we wouldn't be here. But you chose not to do that. And when he was playing, he got like 4, 5, 6 minutes a game every now and again to you know, stretch his legs on the ice. And now we're here. And now this is another year where you bring in Matt Rempe again. You still don't know how he plays the NHL level because you never give him meaningful ice time. Everybody around the league knows that he is a pair of fists, even though he doesn't know how to fight. I guess he's, you know,
he posted those videos fighting with Donald Brashear over the summer. He's
learning how to fight. Yeah, that's great. Can you win us hockey? Can you score a goal? Can you make a seam pass and, you know, to tie?
Can you skate in a straight line without tripping over your own feet? That's the bar right now.
I understand that the Rangers want him to be there because the fans like him. If that's why you're calling people up to your professional hockey team, we have completely lost the plot.
This team is unserious right now. They are not doing anything commiserate with being serious, or I won't even say successful. I'm just saying seriously. The only way out of the shit is through the shit. And until they do that, they are going to continue to be unserious because they are telling you by handling this the way they are that they don't think there's a big problem here. They just think the vibes are off. The way they are handling this in shipping off Kakko, bringing up Rempe, sending down Mancini, bringing in a veteran, 6-7 years of experience in Borgen. We just can't get the vibes right, guys. Will
Borgen's going to fix them. It's all good.
Stupider stuff has happened. This is professional sports. It's not out of the realm of possibility. The East is god-awful. All it takes is a 4 or 5 game winning streak and you're right back in the thick of it.
It'd be hilarious if the Rangers would lose games against Chicago and Nashville miserably.
And then beat Dallas, New Jersey, Boston, Vegas.
Really it's not peak Rangers. It'd be so funny. And again, I'm rooting for them to win every game.
Yes,
and so is Nick. We're not rooting for them to lose.
Because we're wasting our time if we're watching them lose. At the end of the day, the goal here is to get a cup before the sun burns out.
We are as passionate and angry as we are because we want to see the Rangers win the Stanley Cup. And from our perspective, they are going the opposite direction, which is why we're so angry about all this that's going on. We want them to win. I would love for them to go, again, these next 14 games against the top teams in the league and win all 14. That'd be fantastic. We'd sit here and we'd be like, oh yeah, okay, well, Will Borgen's actually going to win the Norris and, and all these things. That'd be great. It'd be so much fun. But is that going to happen? I wouldn't put money on it. I'll tell you that.
All right. I got to get going. I still got to shower. I got to go to the movies. We'll be back Monday, barring another ridiculous thing happening between now and then. When Andrew had texted me trade, I was driving back from the gym, had to diplomatically and finagly get talk to touch working on my phone. But we'll be back on Monday. Hopefully, the temperature comes down a little bit because this isn't sustainable. Another 2 or 3 weeks of this, and you're going to have genuine foundational issues where it's hard to say dead man walking for 50 games because there are still 50 some odd games left, but it's kind of like the MMA fights where Herb Dean lets the guy get beaten into a bloody pulp, 9 punches after when he should have stopped the fight. That's kind of the vibe the Rangers have right now is they're bleeding out of their eye socket. Their lip is busted open. Their nose is broken, but they keep saying, I'm in it. No, you're not. You're dead on the ground. And if the referee doesn't get in there, this is over. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Later.